everyone. So today we're going to be working in Camera Raw a bit more. I wanted to show you some of the other features because Camera Raw is such a great tool when you're working on your photos or maybe photos that a client has given you for a design. Sometimes there's some things in there that we just want to, they're quick little things that we can get done in Camera Raw before we even take it into Photoshop. And so I'm going to show you some of these things. Now do keep in mind that if the edit needs to be a little bit more refined or is a little bit more difficult, you might have to end up taking it into Photoshop anyways, but sometimes we can get a head start on editing by using Camera Raw. So let's jump in. Alright, so first off, you should have already downloaded these 7 files. If you haven't, go ahead and go back to the assignment page and download these. Now these are all raw files. You'll see that some of them say DNG at the end, some of them say NEF. So DNG is Adobe's version of a raw file, NEF is a Nikon version of the raw file. The thing with raw files is when you go to open them in Photoshop, they're going to automatically open in Camera Raw. So let's go ahead and do that. I can go ahead and drag these onto the Photoshop icon, or I can just right click and go to Open with Adobe Photoshop. And for some reason, I don't know why, haven't figured it out yet, but for some reason one of the photos doesn't open with all the others. I don't know why this is happening. But it is. So once we close these ones, that other one's going to pop up in Camera Raw. I don't know why. But anyways, just FYI, so don't freak out if only 6 photos show up. Once we hit done on here, it's going to go ahead and open up also. So anyways, let's look at some photos and do some edits. So this first one, we're going to talk about exposure controls. Now, when I look at a photo and I'm trying to figure out how the tonality or the exposure is, I tend to look at the histogram, and this is just a graphical representation of the tones in an image. So here we have the darkest areas, and you see there's like a black little arrow up here, and then here we have a white arrow. Now this one is lit up, and that is basically a warning that some of the lightest areas are completely white, and we don't want that in an image. So if I click on here, we'll see all of these red areas are what is blown out. So we need to try our best to do something about this. The thing with digital and blown out areas is that basically there's no data left in that area of the image. So we can bring back some of it, but the very brightest areas are gonna stay white. And if you take the exposure down, they're just gonna turn into this weird gray. So just something to know that sometimes, you have to do some creative edits instead to fix it, because you won't be able to fix it just like this. So what I'm seeing here is that I have some areas that are way too blown out. I'm also seeing that we don't have anything in our darkest areas, and our darkest areas is what usually gives an image more of like a punchy, contrasty feel. When we have a lot of nice rich dark areas and a lot of nice bright areas, that's what will give you a high contrast image and a lot of good tonality across the image. So we want to go ahead and work with this. So first thing I'm going to try is I'm just going to take the exposure down a bit. Let's see how much that helps with this. So let's reset it real quick so we can see. Okay, so you can see it's kind of helping. It's taking some of the stuff down. Let's go ahead and go to our highlight slider. Ah, nice. Okay, so it looks like we did have just enough data in there to recover some of the issues that were happening, so yay for that. Now when I was taking those highlights down and taking the exposure down, the buildings did end up getting a little bit too dark maybe, so I'm just going to pull the shadows up a little bit. But I do want some of the areas to stay nice and dark. So you see where I have all this area here where there's not much tonality, I'm actually going to, even though I just took the shadows up, I'm going to take my black point down. And what that's going to do is it's going to take the darkest areas and make them a bit darker. So let's go ahead and do that and see where we're at. Alright, and it looks like I'm starting to have some issues right in here. You can see that they started turning a different color. Those are the bright areas. Oh, the dark blue ones. It looks like just right here I'm having areas with the blacks. So if it goes completely black, that just means that it's completely black. And it becomes more of an issue when we start printing, because we don't want to have just large areas of black ink in an image. It doesn't look that great. But this isn't that bad at all, so I'm not too worried about that. It looks like we do have some blown out areas right here, but they're really small, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these off for now, because this is looking pretty darn good. So by taking those blacks down, I automatically added some contrast. We can try adding a bit more. If I'm going to do that though, I'm going to turn this back. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's do it before and after. Okay, 100% better. We can see what's going on in the clouds way better. That's looking really nice. So you'll notice that, you know, I still have light and dark areas in here, but it looks more punchier, has that contrast. So we're doing a lot better with this now. All right, the last thing I'm going to do, and let's cycle out of this. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the texture slider and maybe a little bit of the clarity slider. Now clarity is actually adding contrast, but just to the mid-tone areas, just to these areas right here in the middle. So it is like adding contrast, but right in the middle, and you're not really messing with those white and black areas. Now I would say be kind of careful with this, because if you go too far, I mean, it has a very specific look, like really, really dramatic. Some people love it. On some subjects like this, it actually doesn't look that bad. On other subjects, especially like portraits, unless you're trying to make someone look bad, you usually want to stay away from that clarity slider. Actually, with skin, it can actually make skin look like kind of soft if you go the opposite way. So you have this really like dreamy type of look. So that can actually look kind of good for skin. But for this image, I'm just going to take it up a little bit. All right, looking good. So at this point, go ahead and take your screenshot, and let's move on to the next image. All right, so here we have a lovely bride, but there's something really wrong here. Everything is super yellow, so the white balance is off. We need to fix this white balance. So right over here we have some different things we can play with. Now all of these options are going to be whatever options were in the camera that took the photo, whatever specific settings that camera had. And this is only going to be available if it's actually a raw file. If you open a JPEG, you're only going to have as shot and I believe auto and then custom. Now one of my favorite features about white balance in Camera Raw is this little picker right here. So what this does is wherever you click, you're telling Camera Raw that this area should not have any, it should be a neutral color. It shouldn't have any extra colors. It shouldn't have any blues or yellows or magentas or greens. It should be just completely white or gray or black. So in this case, this is great. We have a white wedding dress that we can play with. If you have photos, let's say that has a gray sidewalk, sidewalks work pretty good. They're usually, you know, just flat gray. But yeah, it's only going to work if the area that you're clicking on is supposed to be neutral. So let's go ahead and try it out on the dress. All right, and we're getting much better. This is definitely white now instead of being that weird orange color. Now I am seeing that it is underexposed. Let's look at this histogram here. And you're seeing that we have all of this information over here on the dark areas, but there's hardly any information in the light areas. Whereas we have what looks like it should be probably a creamish interior and a white dress, so we should definitely have some whites here. Now if this photo was taken if this photo was just a bunch of dark things in it, then I would expect the histogram to just look like this. But since I know that there are light objects in here, we should have light tonalities over here. So let's fix it. First off, I'm going to take my exposure up. And I mean, I could look at this. I can actually look at the histogram too and start to see where we're going to be good. Okay. Wow, so that was quite a bit that we needed to go up. And now you can see the tonality has been stretched all the way over here. Yeah, that's looking way better. Now I am seeing that this is really crooked, so let's go ahead and fix that too. If I click right over here on this crop icon, I can come in here and click on this little ruler right here. So here we have this angle thing, so you can go like this and play with that. Hit Command Z to undo. But if you have an area that you know is straight, use the ruler tool, because then you could just click on one side and then drag to the other side of where you know it's supposed to be straight, and Photoshop will fix it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use this bench here. All right, very subtle, but it is looking straighter. But wait a minute, hold on. Let me try it on this one. I feel like it could be even straighter. All right, there we go. That's looking better. And I'm looking at these lines here now too. It looks like these are pretty straight. It looks like this pillar is maybe kind of a bowed pillar. It's fine. But yeah, looking at these pillars back here, it's looking pretty straight coming up and down, and then going across these is looking a lot better too. I'm going to go ahead and hit return, and we have our straightened image. This is looking great. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, 100% better. Let's look at that. Before, after. Bam. Beautiful. Okay. Moving forward. So we talked about, we've talked about doing some color stuff in Photoshop. Now, if you wanted to do some quick colors now, especially when it comes to food photography, when there's anything that's fresh, you usually want to boost the greens a little bit. Before I do that, this is looking a little bit cool in the white balance. So let me go ahead and pull up my white balance clicker. And I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to be a white plate on a white napkin or tablecloth or whatever. So let's see. Let me try clicking right up here. Oh wow, and so that looks way warmer. Okay, that's looking a lot better, more appetizing already. So I'm pretty happy with this, but if we wanted to give the avocado a little bit more green, we can actually come right down here and we have the color mixer panel. Now the color mixer panel, you can adjust the hue, the saturation, the luminance, or all. Now, what does this mean? So hue is the actual color that we're going to be changing. Saturation is like how bright that color is. And the luminance has to do with how much light is coming through the color. So, I guess that's the way to say it. I don't know. So let's go ahead and go to hue. And so we see the greens here, so we can go ahead and, oh, actually, I don't want to do the hue. What am I doing? That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the saturation of the greens. I'm going to take it up just a bit, just to saturate just the green areas of the avocado to really make it look like that nice freshness. Now we also have the TAT, the Targeted Adjustment Tool. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and click on this, and I want to make the saturation of the shrimp a little bit more saturated. I can go ahead and click and drag up. And as I'm dragging up, it's also dragging up any colors that I've clicked on. And if I look over at the panel, it looks like it's affecting the oranges and the yellows. Now that's also affecting the greens of the avocado, which I'm not liking. So yeah, let's go ahead and hit Command Z, undo. Let me just try the orange. Okay, that's looking better. So not messing with the yellows at all, just the oranges. Alright, and if I wanted to make those oranges even redder, I can. Maybe that's a bit much, huh? Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's do an before. And by the way, the keyboard shortcut to do a before and after is the backslash. So if you want to do this also, you can. Okay, and yeah, that looks way more appetizing, right? That looked kind of like, I don't want to eat that. But that one, nom. I'm going to eat that right up. All right. So next, let's see. This one, this is reducing noise. Now, reducing noise isn't a huge thing, but I think Camera Raw does it better than Photoshop. So if I have a photo where there's a lot of noise, I do it here. And if you're wondering what do I mean by noise, let's go ahead and jump out of this real quick. So let me zoom in. Okay. So you see all of these little speckly areas? This is what's called noise. And this is caused by using a high ISO. If I look right over here, I can see the camera settings. It says ISO 4000. ISO 100 is a low ISO. You usually don't have very much noise. ISO 4000 is a high ISO. You're going to see a lot more noise. A lot of cameras nowadays go up to like 25,000. And let's see. Yeah, 25,600. And so you're going to get even more issues. Now you can also see here that there is an issue. I've got color fringing happening. That's that magenta line going on there. All right. Okay, so sorry, I had to pause real quick. So, if we come on down here, now I'm pretty sure, because this is actually not looking too bad, I think some automatic settings were applied. So let's take a look at the detail area, and yep, color noise reduction. So this is exactly what we're going to be using, but it looks like some was already applied to this image. So let me turn this off real quick, and you can see what the issue was. So let's take it back and look at that skin. So before there's all these like speckly areas, where there's like magentas and cyans and all this stuff going on. Let's see. You can see, especially like in the darkest areas, that's usually where noise is the worst, in the really black areas. So, and look at this. Yeah, totally see all of these little speckles here. So what the color noise reduction does is it takes these out. Look at that. So you still see the grain, basically, the dots in there, but it takes out all that extra color issues that made it look so bad. Now, you can do noise reduction. The problem with noise reduction is that it starts to make things look blurry, so you want to be kind of light with this. So if you do it, you'll see, like if I go all the way, see how blurry her face looks now? It's usually what you don't want to do. But we can take it up a little bit to reduce it a bit. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty helpful, and like I said, I personally think that Camera Raw and Lightroom actually do this better than Photoshop, so this is where I like to do my noise reduction at. Alright, that's it for that one. Moving forward. Alright, so lens problems and fringe. Oh yeah, fringing. That's what else I was going to do with this one. So if you remember, let's see, did it take care of it? Alright, so we have this fringing going on here. And that has to do with lens issues. So let's go ahead and go to the optics, and I'm going to go ahead and click on remove chromatic aberration. That's the technical term for this. Basically, well, I'm not going to, basically all the colors kind of shifted a bit, and so the magenta channel is a little bit moved over, which is causing this fringe to appear. So if I go ahead and click on this, you can see that it did a pretty good job. It was really, really magenta. The computer saw what was going on and took out some of it. You can also turn on profile corrections, which can help somewhat. We also have defringe down here. So use the eyedropper to sample purple and green areas of fringing that need correction. Nice. So let's go ahead and turn this off just so we can see the power of what this does. Alright, and it did a pretty good job. It did about the same as this one did, I think. Go ahead and turn both of them off, both of them on. Looks even better. Let's see. Get even closer. I mean, I guess that's really just the edge of his hand now, huh? Okay, but definitely an improvement over what there was before. Alright, moving forward. Let's go ahead and do the same for this. So we're going to go ahead and click on remove chromatic aberration. Again, I'm in this optics panel here. And that definitely is going to help. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and zoom in. I think there was some chromatic aberration there. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see right here we have a white car, but it has this very visible cyan and red line. once I click on this, bam, 100% better. Yes, 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 yes. All right, looking good. So I also want to take care of this building that's leaning. Let's see what profile corrections helps with this. So what profile corrections does, it looks at the metadata or the data that's in the image to read what kind of lens was used, what kind of camera was used, and then it applies automatic corrections that it knows has, that the computer, the software knows that that specific camera and lens has. So in this case, it was shot with a Nikon, let's see, an 18 to 300 millimeter, 3.5 to 5.6. So it knows that when someone shoots with this, there's usually some kind of issue, and it applies these automatic fixes to it. Now, we still can see that these buildings are super leaning in. So let's go ahead and fix that up a bit. I mean, and this isn't, you know, this is just going to happen because of the angle of view of where the photograph was taken. So if I come down here, I'm actually going to go to geometry. All right, and with geometry, this is where you can start changing the tilt of your photo, whether it's forward or backward or side to side. So we have no tilt, we have an auto. Did okay. This still doesn't quite look straight. We have, let's see, this is like a horizontal, vertical. That one looks pretty good, actually. I think this is a little bit off still. We have this grid type of thing. Looks pretty good. Now, before I get into this last one, I want to show you the manual part. So you can come in here and actually change it. So I need to move this vertically a little bit more. Let's go ahead and reset this real quick. So if I needed to move this, all right, let's pull it in. Let's pull it in. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at these lines and I'm looking at the edges of the buildings and trying to match them up. So that did a pretty good job right there. Yeah, not bad at all. All right, we have some straight buildings now. Now, obviously, we're going to want to have to crop this. If you did want to keep it, you know, if it doesn't, if you want to keep it as the same crop ratio, you can use the scale option. This is just going to make it larger. Alright, but then obviously we're taking out a bunch of stuff, but it'd probably be about the same as if we would have cropped it, so it's all good. Now, I do want to show you, let me reset these, this one other option. So we have this option to draw guides, and what it wants you to do is draw 2 or more guides to fix horizontal and vertical lines. So if it's a little bit more complicated than just one of these sliders or something, this is what you can do. So kind of like the straightening when we were doing cropping, we're doing the same thing, but we're drawing lines on areas, on parts that we know should be straight. So for example, this building here, I'm going to click and drag and just move it until it's lined up. Okay, there's one. And then I'm going to use this part of this building. I'm trying to see where I can see the best. Okay, let's try. Right about there. Okay, not too shabby, right? And once again, I can do scale. I can come back to crop if I wanted to, and decide to crop from here. Let's see, if I wanted to just, you know, freestyle crop, I can just hit this little lock here and pull in, pull in. All right, for me to make some decisions. Is all this sky up here really necessary? Oh, this line is nice here. I don't know, I'll just leave it for now. Okay, so yeah, pretty sweet. I think it probably could be turned just a little bit, so it might need a little bit more finessing, but it's a pretty good start. So this is a pretty powerful tool. Okay, next, let's go ahead and, oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to remind you guys, you should be taking screenshots at the end of each of these. So whichever panel that we use, that's the most important panel, go ahead and make sure that that one is the one that's open. So for this one, for example, it'd be white balance, take a screenshot. For this one, it's actually the color mixer. And something that's kind of cool about this is if the little eye is lit up, that means that there was an edit done in this panel. So if you forgot what panel you use, look for the eye. You're like, okay, that's right, it was this panel. Sweet. Okay, moving forward. So with this image, we got quite a few issues going on. So let's go ahead and jump in. Let's start off with some exposure. So we have a lot of light areas, but this is an overcast day, a foggy, overcast day on the coast. So what can you expect? Now, when I was actually taking this photo, I could see more detail in the clouds. So I want to bring back what my experience of the scene was to my edit to this image. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and take my exposure down just a bit. I don't want to get too dark because I really did like how light and shimmery the ocean looked. But you know what? It's really, you know, this is fine. It's really this area that's bugging me. So what I'm going to do is that there are some adjustment tools where you can target specific areas. So right over here under the crop, we have a healing tool. We have selective edits, or now it's called masking. So let's go ahead and get into here. So once I go here, there's a couple different things we could do. We can select the subject, select sky. Now I have a feeling it's going to have a problem with select sky because it almost starts to blend in with the ocean. You guys can try if you want. We have brush, where you actually brush the areas. We have a linear gradient, that's what we'll be using. We have a radial gradient. You can make selections based on a color range. So you want to select all the yellows, like they're showing you here. You could do that. There's also a luminance range for all like the brightest areas or the darkest areas or something like that. But seeing how, yeah, there's areas where you can't even tell where the sky and the ocean starts. I'm just going to go ahead and use a linear gradient for now. And it might be crooked a bit too. So actually, before I do that, let me go back to here. I'm just going to take my exposure down just so I can see a little bit more. Okay. I'm trying to see. There's the line, which isn't really visible when I was at my other exposure. So let's go ahead and try to fix that real quick. Now before I do that, I'm going to come down here to optics. I'm going to make sure I turn on my profile correction, so if there was any distortion, like if I was using a wide angle lens, what was I using? 18 to 300 at 20, yeah, so it's pretty wide, 21 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and click use profile corrections, because when you use a wide angle lens, the middle seems to pop out a bit, and so like think of fisheye lenses, so that can make horizons look, you know, popped out and look like they're curved. So don't want that. Alright, so I got that turned on. I might as well turn that on too. Never know when there's some chromatic aberrations creeping around. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and see if I need to straighten here. I think I do. I'm hitting Command plus a couple times. I'm going to click on my little straightening ruler here, and it looks like the horizon hits there, and then right there. Okay, yeah, so it was a little bit crooked, so I'm going to go ahead and hit return. Yes, nice. Alright, let's go back to basic, and I don't want it to be that dark, but I do want it to be darker, right? So I'm liking this area down here, but this area still needs some help. Let's go back over here to our masking, and let's go to linear gradient. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and when I click and drag, it's going to be creating basically an area that I can edit, and it's not going to edit. Let me just do it and then I'll show you. Alright, so here we go. So here, all the red area is going to be the area that when I change the settings on the right, it's going to affect the red area. The area below will not be affected. Now this right here is basically how much of a fade you want from the area that's affected to not affected. So right now that's a pretty big fade, or I could do a really short fade. So I think I'm going to try, now we can change this later if it becomes an issue. So I think I'm going to pull it here, and if I hold down shift it'll actually keep it straight. So this is like, you know, at different angles. But if I hold shift and go straight down, it'll keep it at a straight angle. And so I know, since I just straightened my image, that that should work out. Okay, cool. So there's that. Now let's go ahead. I'm just going to try it with the exposure first. And I'm just slowly bringing it down. And oh, we're getting clouds appearing. Okay. Now we're getting them appearing. That might be a little bit too dark still. Let's click on here and pull this fade up so that we have more of a nice consistent build instead of just the harshness, because that's going to look more fake. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah. Alright, looking good. Let's see, is there anything else I really want to do there? No, I think I'm happy with it. So I can also I can add a little bit of contrast, maybe a bit of contrast. Let's go all the way for a second. Making the sides look a little purpley, I don't like that. That does look nice. Magenta-y, so let's try adding a little bit of green back in. Yep, and that's balancing that magenta straight out. Nice. Alright. You can also do shadows, whites, blacks, some saturation, some texture clarity. Actually, why don't we add a little bit? Let's see. Now you can see that there's some dots appearing. Those are actually some, I think they were water speckles on the lens. So now we're actually going to be able to see them. So that's another issue we got to take care of now. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so let's take care of those issues. Now the nice thing is that we also have some healing tools. Now it's not as, you know, it's not like the healing tools that, I mean, they're similar to the healing tools that we played with in Photoshop, but if it's a really complicated healing job, I would definitely say take it into Photoshop. But for this, I think we're going to be able to use them just fine. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm gonna hit my bracket, my left bracket, to go smaller. Okay, and so what happens is I clicked and brushed over the area I want to get rid of, and then it picks an area to kind of copy over. Now what's nice about this is that if that doesn't work, I can actually click and drag on this and move it to another area that is going to work. That is looking fine right now. Let's go ahead. Wait, is it? If I need to go ahead and look at it, I can click on the pin again. Let's move it closer. So usually the area that's really close to the part you're trying to heal is going to be the best place. Okay. No, I don't like that. That's not looking that great. I mean, it looked okay. My feather's all the way up. Maybe I just need to go a little bit larger on my size, maybe. Okay, let's click and drag this to the area right next to it. Okay. Alright, that's looking better. Cool. Alright, let's do a couple more. And again, I'm just going to pull it to the area right next to it. Okay, there's another big one here. And actually that one didn't turn out that great. So I have to go back to this. Whoops. Go ahead and hit delete to get rid of that. And I'm gonna go a little bit bigger than my spot this time. Okay. That's looking way better. Alright. Cool. And it looks like this one over here was an issue too. So let's go back to this. Let's go ahead and click on this, hit delete, and let's go a little bit bigger. Pull this in right here. Okay. Much better. Alright, and I think these other little ones aren't going to be that big of an issue. Where'd they go? There we go. Alright. Okay, sorry, had to pause real quick. Alright, working on my spots, that's right. Okay, let's see. Any other super obvious ones? Yep, we got some right over here. Okay. Alright, it looks like those are the most obvious ones I can see. So yeah, looking good so far, guys. Alright, let's do a quick before and after. What? A little bit more. A couple more things I want to show you guys. Now over here in the heel area, we also have a clone area. So if you remember working with the clone stamp, it's a very similar type of thing. So for this shot, I actually want to get rid of this guy in the truck down here. So I'm going to zoom in a couple times by hitting Command, or if you're on a PC, Control Plus. And, you know, he's just chilling, but, you know, that's fine, but I'm actually going to take him out. So let's go ahead and brush over this, and let's see if clone is going to be our tool to go with. Opacity, feather size. Yeah, that's not looking that great. I wonder... Oh, overlay? No, that's not what I want. Alright, let's try heel instead. Oh, that's interesting. So for some reason, it's not doing that well with this. It's just showing me where. You know, last time I did this video is actually in the old Camera Raw, so maybe this new one isn't as. This feature isn't as great of an update. Let's go ahead and delete real quick. Okay, whoops. And let me try this again. Sometimes the second time works better. You never know. Let's try. Let's give it a go. It still has a very transparent type of look. Maybe I need to not be so feathered. Maybe I need to try a little bit less of a feather. Let's see. Let's try that out. I'm starting to get somewhere now. It looks like we're still having an issue with here. So let's add, I'm going to add a bit more to this. Didn't do what I wanted it to do, and it's still showing some of the car there. That is, I think it has to do with my brush settings. And to be honest, I mean, I know I've told you guys this before, but I have my brush looks bigger on the screen than it actually is, so it's easier to see on the videos. But when it comes to fine work like this, it does kind of mess me up a little bit. So that could be the issue too. But that's not looking too bad. Alright, let's go ahead and switch back to this real quick. I mean, not too shabby, right? Before and after. Now, something I am noticing is I do want to take my shadows back up here. Yeah, I think that's looking better right there. I feel like it was just too dark right over here. It's just this area right here. Alright, so that's already looking a whole lot better, right guys? Okay. Woohoo! Loving it. Alright, so we have one more image. Don't forget to take your screenshot now. Take your screenshots all now, because we're going to close all these. Now I'm going to hit done. When I hit done, it's actually, so the photos are going to look the same when you look at them like in Finder or File Explorer, but when you open them back in Camera Raw, these settings should be saved for the images. If you wanted to open it in Photoshop after this, you could just click open. There's a couple other options. Open as an object. It would turn it into a smart object, and that's really nice because then you can double click on it to come back into Camera Raw. That's pretty sweet. Or open as a copy. I'm just going to go ahead and hit done. And there's that other image. I don't know why it didn't open with the others. I tried over and over for some reason. Okay, anyways, so for this one, I just want to show you guys a little bit, you know, if you have areas with a lot of shadow, a little bit of cropping, and then we're going to talk about color grading. Again, remember color grading from like way earlier in the semester? So anyways, with this one, again, I'm looking at these tones and everything is pushed over to the side, to the dark side. This photo is way too dark, so let's take the exposure up a bit. Looking better, looking better. I'm looking at her skin tones over here. This is looking nice. Her teeth are looking nice and white on one side at least. The other side is still, you know, pretty dark. So let's take the shadows up. There we go. Now we're losing a little bit of that contrast with this. So I'm going to take it up, but then I'm actually going to make my blacks a little darker. And so we're going to add a little bit of that darkness back in. So before and after. That's huge. Alright. Looking nice though. Now I am going to go ahead and crop. And what's really nice is that a lot of times when you bring up crop, it brings up this rule of thirds grid. So rule of thirds makes it a little bit easier to visualize where to set important elements of a photo. So you can see her eyes are on this top line. That's perfect. Now it's going to, so before, you know, she's kind of off to the side here. If we place her on this third line, it's going to be a little bit more visually pleasing. So this would be really nice for a graphic if we wanted to add text over here. Or I would actually maybe put her right over here for the actual photo. Like if this was a headshot, do it like that and bring her in there. They're really framing her face with that rule of thirds. It's looking really good right there. Let me hit undo. But that looks really cool too. I like how we have this line here, and then yeah, we could totally use this for text also. Undo. Let's go again one more time. I'm just going to bring her in on this side. So I'm going to place this her eye that's closest to me right at the intersection of two of these lines. It's looking really great. Her hand is at the almost at the intersection, so that's looking really good. Hit return. Wonderful. Alright, so let's go down here. We actually have a color grading panel. So what's really cool about this is that it gives you options for the midtones, the shadows, and the highlights. So we can just start color grading right off the bat here. Now if you wanted to do more of a toning, you can switch to black and white first. That looks really nice. But let's just try going with, I don't know, let's go with oranges for the highlights and its complement blues or tealish, blue teal areas for the shadows. So here we go, highlights. go with a kind of an orangey yellow, maybe? Orangey yellow type of look. Okay. For the shadows, I'm going to go with more of this blue, teal. Ooh, the teal, but I think I'm going to back it off. I'm going to pull it more towards the center so it's not as intense. For the midtones, I think I'm going to go with those, maybe some oranges, but now it's hitting the background. I don't know if I like that. Actually, I think I'm just going to leave that as is. And I could do the intensity here. Like it's like the luminance, a little bit brighter there. Nice. What about here? A little darker. We're losing all those shadows again though. Okay, but pretty cool, right? I mean, it's a really quick and easy way to take care of this. Oh wow, what a difference. Oh, I forgot how dark this was already. Alright, so we're looking better already. I think her hair could be a little bit darker. Yeah, that's something I think I would do in Photoshop. Anyways, alright guys, take your screenshot of this one. So yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff. You know, we just kind of barely scratched the surface. I would highly recommend that you guys come in here and kind of go through all these different panels and take a look around to see what you can actually do in here. It's a really great tool to get some fast edits done on photos.